Well, well, well. Sasquatch Steve, my favorite one-eyed wonder. Boo! Did you do that on its
Whoa!
own, huh?
Look at that.
Oh, look at that. That's Discord magic right there. Y'all going into
That
it. It's probably my
hold on,
hands
was that?
clapping. Yeah, I don't know. Was that your thumbs up that made that go?
I have no idea.
I know one
Never
time.
saw it.
I've never seen that before anyway. So, anyways,
Oh yeah. Wow.
just greatness. We're just
That's
greatness.
I mean,
This oozes out of us.
that's right.
Anyways, welcome to EnigmaCast. You might notice that Steve and I are properly dressed, hair trimmed, and shaved, but he's still. So don't point that out, man. Like he's still. He's missing
I
an
couldn't.
eye. His eye didn't grow back yet, right?
I couldn't completely let go.
Couldn't
I
completely-
liked the last
couldn't let it
outfit.
go. It looked good. It looked good. But anyways, Steve and I have been working on our joint project, everybody, and we're going to get into it. We don't know if you've known about this or not, but have you ever heard of a Duende?
The Duende. Yes.
Duende. So I had not. I had found out about a Duende about the same time I found out what a Pukwudgie was. If you did not catch our last episode of EnigmaCast, then you missed the whole joke about her hair getting cut, but you should go check it out anyways. It's one of our good ones. But, Steve, what do you know about a Duende?
Well, do you want more history stuff or just a general idea of what they are?
I want both. I want it all, son. I want all the smoke. So first of all, give me the general, and then let's get in. You give me the general. I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you the cultural, and then you give me the history.
All right, I like that.
Let's do
All
it.
right, so the general is a duende is basically just the Spanish or Portuguese word for goblin, more or less. They are small humanoid cryptids, generally talked about being 2 to 3 feet tall. They have long arms. I've heard reports that they usually have like a flatter face with like a pale yellowish skin tone and long dark hair. That seems to be the common description of them. There's reports that they are sometimes larger, sometimes smaller, but that's the general idea. They're a small, essentially goblin-like creature.
Yeah, and to add on to that as well, with some of the descriptions that I was given to them that I thought was very specific. They wear clothes and they have hats, and supposedly some of them look like old men, some of them look like mysterious children. And a duende in Central and South America, they are known to be tricksters, just a whole bunch of fidukery going on, right? And so that's the general description of them and the background on them, but there's actually a cultural aspect to this that actually spans more than Central and South America. These things are actually been reported in Spain as well, and also in the Philippines, which I'm starting. And before we move into the episode deeper, there's a connection there, and I'm thinking that, as I always do, that all these things are real. Spain conquered Central America, South America, and they also conquered the Philippines. So it seems like everywhere these Spanish people or the Spanish conquistadors got involved, some of these little duendes showed up. So yeah,
They must have been lashed right onto the boats,
something, man. There was something going on with that, right? So,
But yeah, no, that makes sense.
and so, and also too, it also makes me think these are very similar in description to the Pukwudgies that we talked about, and that you were the subject matter expert on that as well. You are now, anyways, the subject matter
Right.
expert on Pukwudgies. Except I never came across, and I've got about let's see, 5 encounters to talk about as we go. No fatalities, unlike the Pukwudgies, who are stone cold killers, right? And I didn't come across any abductions stories as well. Did you?
I won't say abductions, but I will say that I did see a lot of reports where they would kind of, because, well, we can go all over the place with this. 2 main spots not to get off on a tangent, two places that typically I read that they are found, right? In the woods, in caves, and living in the walls
Yeah.
of people's bed.
Yeah.
Two very different spots. But the ones that I saw a lot of reports of the ones that live out in the woods, in the caves, they would try to lure people in
Yeah.
into the woods, into the caves to do what? That's not necessarily known or specified. But back to what you were saying is, yeah, I didn't see any reports or anything. There was never anything fatal, nothing deadly. But yes, they were kind of tricksters, like you were saying. More mischievous than anything.
Yeah. So yeah, they are what I thought the Pukwudgies would be, like tying your shoes together, hiding your car
Yeah.
keys, doing something like that. And it turned
Yep.
out the Pukwudgies will eat your kids and shoot arrows in your eyes, like
Put you off a cliff and burn your village down. It's
push
like,
you off a
okay.
cliff, set your house on fire. Pukwudgies know no chill, man. Yo,
No.
man. That's the that's what I thought that was going to be, and it turned out that's what these Duendes would be. So Duendes.
Yeah.
And when I was looking into it, man, as well, one of the things that I noticed that was in that they had in common is I looked on a map, of course, and I was looking, where Spain was at, and then I was looking how far it is from Central America, South America, and then all the way from the Philippines. But there was also the Irish. We call them leprechauns, but in Ireland, man, they call them the little people, right? It's very, very, very similar to what they're more like the Pukwudgies in Ireland, right? So where people have said that there's actually lore about people experiencing time loss interacting with these little people in Ireland. And there's a story of one dude who lost an entire year. He went out, showed up 1 year later. Everybody thought he was dead or whatever. He's like, no, I've been gone for an evening. Like one evening, I was just, drinking with the little people, right? And they're like, no, no, no. So yeah. But here's one thing too that I also found out, very specific to the Duendes, right? That I did not hear when I was doing the Pukwudgie research, is that the Duendes are known to be tricksters and mischievous, playing pranks, but they've also several stories, I can't debunk it or whatever, where they've actually been helpful in protecting children, guiding lost travelers, and helping household chores.
I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of that too, and it seemed like everywhere I was looking, everywhere that I did research, everywhere I was reading, every story I looked up, you were almost split, right?
Yeah.
It was almost like half of them were just good. They wanted to help people out, whether it be help someone who's lost in the woods, or even like you were saying, help the people, the ones that live in the walls, help around the household chores.
Yeah.
And then the other half was more of like, yeah, we're kind of playing pranks and just being mischievous. And so it's, yeah, one thing I saw is people were almost saying was they start out in this kind of helpful manner, but if you show a disrespect or you turn your back to them, that's when they kind of cross over into that more mischievous mode.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going to focus on the ones in Central and South America, all right? Because I got a few stories. I grabbed a story just to show the Pukwudgies, man, are Massachusetts. It's specifically Freetown, close in that area, right? But like you said, mostly Massachusetts, right? So I thought it'd be cool. So I went out and I grabbed, 5 instances: one in Mexico, one in the Philippines, one in Spain, one in El Salvador, and one in Puerto Rico, right? And so,
there you go.
But we'll touch on them. We'll touch on them as we get moving forward. But what you just said was exactly the same thing that I had came across in doing some of my light reading, is that if you show them disrespect, they get disrespect back to you, right? And so so what I did is because we always go the extra mile.
Of course.
I showed you on how to get rid of them if they get a little bit too naughty. Anyways, so Steve,
Look at that.
Let's get into it, brother. Let's get into it. So
That's right.
the Duendes.
Hmm.
What did you find, Steve, on your journey?
Well, I have a couple. Refer to my notes here as well, everybody.
We don't. Hey, look,
Uh,
people just think we wing it. No, we don't wing it. You know what I'm saying?
no, we put in the work.
We put in the
That's
work,
right.
son. All right.
We're here to educate you, and that's
Exactly.
what it comes.
I got into a Instagram poking match, and some guy was getting loud. I'm like, hey, look, noob, look, nerd. I plant seeds. I point in directions. You got to walk through
Hmm.
that door sometimes on your own. You understand, right?
That's
So that's what we
we
do.
get you
See,
there.
we'll get you there. Just buckle up.
I love it. So, one of the things, so the story of the Duende, from what I could see all over the place, originated, as you said, in Spain, actually, in the Iberia area, Spain, Portugal, that kind of area, um, and they're deep in their folklore. There's tons of stories. In fact, there's even in Spain they have over 12 different classifications, different types of
What?
Duende.
For real?
Yeah, I have a bunch of them written down, but
All
I'll go
right.
into that later.
Oh, I
Um,
know you. I know you do.
yeah, that's right. So I got there's a lot. There's a lot. They're huge in Spanish folklore.
Wow.
Um, and like you said, that over time that's moved down into Central and South America, and they're very big in the folklore. But there's a lot of people who, of course, believe it's more than that. It's not just stories. They really
Yeah.
believe that they exist. And like you said, you've got 5 stories yourself. I've got a couple myself. Um, but yeah, it's big down in South Central America and over in Spain. Um, and even though these stories and the ideas of these different duendes span over such a huge landmass, like you're saying, there's a lot of commonality.
Yeah.
It really, there's differences, but there's a lot that's the same. And a lot of it being that there's kind of 2 versions. The ones that live out in the woods, they live in the caves. Supposedly they like a trickster, you might think they like to hoard goods, right? There's a lot of stories of them keeping riches and
Yeah.
what, or trinkets, all this kind of things out in these caves. Um, so that's the one big one. The other one is that they live in the walls of people's homes, which I guess that probably the ones that are on the smaller sides, because you can't really fit a large creature, large large cryptid
Yeah.
in a wall. But those seem to be, you hear that everywhere. No matter where you read about the duende, those are the 2 locations you find them:
Yeah.
out in the wood or in your walls.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no middle. They're not staying in a
No,
shed. They're like
yeah,
they're in the woods or they're in your house.
yes,
That's how it rolls on that. Same thing. That's the same thing I saw on that too as well, man.
hmm
Is that yeah, man? Okay.
yeah. So you got stories.
Yeah.
I want to hear them.
So look. So I picked. I actually have a video, right?
Okay,
And so I'm gonna put the video in a YouTube short and an Instagram reel that's gonna air the Thursday after this drops.
okay.
When I first started doing the research, so anyhow, this came via an Instagram suggestion, right? I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about the Pukwudgie either, but I didn't know anything about a Duende, right? So this
hmm
dude was like, "Hey, look, man, check out these Duendes down there," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, man, like sure. What is that?" He's like, "You don't know what that is?" I'm like, "Yeah, no." I'm like, "I ain't never heard of that before." He's like, "Hey, look, man, here's a video." He sent me a video, and I'm gonna play the video, and I'm gonna put it up later, but it's a little freaky. I'm not gonna lie,
hmm
man. Like, so if it's a hoax, I don't know how they did it. I don't know. I don't know how they did it, and I don't know how the people's reactions were very genuine. Like it was very good, right? And so
yeah.
you'll see it as we go, man. So hold on to that. But anyway, so I'm not gonna play that video during this. I'm gonna put it during a YouTube short or on an Instagram reel and on TikTok. So here's the stories I got for you guys. All right. So number one, they're really brief, right? First story I got was in Mexico, a rural part of Mexico, which all of Mexico is pretty rural once you get outside the major traffic jams or whatever. And this story was more of the this was a naughty one, right?
Mm.
So some children were playing in the backyard out there somewhere in Mexico, and one of these duendes came out from behind a tree and was playing a flute, right? And was like kind of doing like a little dance with these kids, right? Playing a flute. And the kids were 4, 5, 6 years old, not to the point to know to, they were young. They were young enough to not be scared right away, but to be curious, right? So they're like, so this duende started pulling the Pied Piper trick on them, man. It started like, was luring them away from their yard out into the the edge of the forest or whatever it was, and they got about 8 feet away, and all of a sudden the mom come flying out of the house, started screaming, and the kids looked, and when the duende saw her, he jumped and turned and sprinted into the woods or whatever, right? So that's a naughty boy, right? He ain't helping with the chores. I don't know what he was doing with that, man.
Always intentions, but he certainly was not.
My man had he didn't have good intentions, all right? So now, you want another one, or do you got one? You got another one if you want one.
No,
All right.
you go, and then I'll go.
So the second one is, man, coming out of the Philippines, right?
Mhm.
And so the Filipinos, they believe these things live outside or in your closet, right? They live in closets, right? So that's what they did. And so there's a Filipino story of a mother hearing her daughter having a conversation in her bedroom, right? So the mother did not immediately go into the bedroom. She just wanted to hang outside the bedroom, right? And just listen to what was being said. So her mother was noticing that it was actually someone was speaking back to the kid, right? First she thought it was like an imaginary friend, right? So she heard two voices, but she thought her daughter was talking and then making another different voice, right?
Yeah.
So her mother went into the room, looked around, and she was like, "Who are you talking to here?" She's like, Nuno was the name she gave it, right? She's like, "I'm talking to Nuno." She's like, "Who's Nuno?" She's like, "Oh no, he's there. He lives over there." So her mother goes over there, looks around, can't find anything or whatever, right? So the fiduciary started to incur after that, right? So I want to be careful here, man, because I don't want to laugh, man, because this would be terrifying. But so stuff started getting rearranged in the house, not misplaced, but like the couch got moved and stuff like that, right? And so they were thinking like, what's going on here, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, the girl was like, it's so he's doing it, he's mad, he's upset. So they originally thought that it might have been her daughter, like just acting out. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out it wasn't. So she went to the village. This is village life, right? She went to a village, and in the village they had what they call a spiritual healer or whatever. He went to the house. He said, "Yes, you have a duende living in your closet." She says, "I don't. It's got to go. I don't want it here." Right? And so they made it an offering of food. They leave, and it makes me think about the whole Santa Claus milk and cookies. They left it some food, and supposedly it left, right? So so I don't know if I would call that more of a naughty one, but it was definitely a wall dweller, and it felt that the mom got disrespected it, so it got a little bit of naughty, and so they bribed it basically. So so that was
that's something I did read a lot, was that that especially the ones that are friendly, they love little treats. You leave them something behind, whether it be a food item or some sort of trinket or something like that, and it really kind of builds that respect that these things have for the people.
So the guy that sent me the Duende story video was telling me the story, and he said that this Duende was moving their construction tools, ladders and tool belts and stuff like that, and they had to bribe it with whiskey to stop. They had to give it whiskey to make it stop doing this. That's what he told me, right? Hey, look, I believe you. You know what I'm saying? I believe you saw something, right? So I was like, yeah, man, it's a pretty cool video. But now I'm gonna have to watch it with fresh eyes after doing this reading and stuff. So,
all
right,
that's pretty fun.
All right, so you ready for Spain, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so this one was actually fairly, I'm sorry, fairly recent.
Careful.
Yeah, this was fairly recent, man, like 1980s. Like the one I'm about to tell you now happened in the 80s, right?
I got one even sooner than that, but yeah,
All
let
right.
me.
Oh, dang.
That's
Yeah,
right.
man. So, anyways, a tourist was in Spain and was hiking.
Okay.
So that's the story. I guess they were. I guess they were. There's a. He was from the UK. I guess there's a train that you can take and go a Euro pass, I think is what they call it, and you can go do all this stuff, right? So he was in Spain. He was hiking. He went off into like one of the trails in Spain. Got off just to take a few pictures and got kind of turned around, right? And really got lost, like
Mhm.
fairly badly, right? To the point where he was like, hey, look, I don't know what to do, man. So he kind of got, he was really turned around. His words, right? Here's what he said happened. He said, as he realized that nightfall had showed up, it was dark, it was getting darker. He was in a panic. He didn't know what to do. He said that he saw a small figure come out of the bushes and
Mhm.
wave at him, like motion him this way, right? Waving him over here. At first, he freaked out, right? He's like, I don't know what he was doing because it was gesturing towards himself, right? He's like, come
Mhm.
here, come here, come here. And he was like, he wouldn't move. He says he wouldn't move, right? Because he didn't know what was going on. He's like, this thing's calling me over there. There's no way I'm going over there, right? And then the duende realized that he was scared, and the duende stepped to his side and started pointing that way, that way, that way. And so the
Mhm.
guy started walking, and then every couple, 100, whatever, he would see him again pointing that way, that way, that way. And so this guy, this duende, in the middle of the night, walked him out of the woods, man, got him back on the path, man, and then that was the end of it, man. So
I, yeah, I read about not that one
yeah,
specifically, but it was common that the ones that live in the woods they'll help those who get lost and
yeah.
and things like that. So that's yeah,
A Pukwudgie would have ate you. Know that right
yeah.
now.
Pukwudgie would have pulled out one of its magic arrows, fired it right in the chest, and you would
right,
have never seen again.
right, right. So that was a good one, right? So I've given you
Yeah.
kind of a naughty one. I've given you a disrespectful one. Now I gave you a helpful one. Now I'm gonna give you a trickster one, a mischievous one, right? That came
That's
out.
good.
So this
I
was,
like this. You got like a full palette
I
here
do,
for
man.
everyone.
So
Good.
this one is the mischievous one that I came across, and this one was out of El Salvador, right? So, all right. So there was this family in El Salvador, right? And
Hmm.
they kept noticing that like strange, strange stuff would be happening in their kitchen, right? And
Hmm.
so they would come out at first. It would be pots would be just not destructive. You know what I'm saying? Like pots would be stacked up like somebody was playing Legos. They would take their mashed potatoes would be where the in the oatmeal box, and the oatmeal
Yeah,
box would be in the so like the food containers were being switched out.
that's great.
so so they would go to get some cornmeal, and it would be oatmeal, right? And they were like, what's going on, right? So what they also noticed too is that they found one night they came out and their flour had been spread out across the floor, and somebody had like little bitty tiny footprints like ran around like in the flour, just leaving like
Yeah.
little footprints in it, right? So
Hmm.
at first they were like they thought that it was like their cat. For some reason that was the first thing, but they were like, "Are you crazy? How no cats swapping the containers, right? And it's not
Yeah.
like cow paws, right? How did the flour get on the floor, right?" And so this continued, man, and then it got to the point where things would happen and they would hear something laugh at them, right? Like something would
Yeah.
giggle at them, something would laugh at them, right? So when they heard the laughter, man, it freaked them out, right? And so they went out, man, and found I guess the same type of spiritual whatever in El Salvador. And he came in and he said, what's going on. They told him. He said, you have a Duende problem. They knew what a Duende was. I guess this, like I said, this is big in there. And they're like, well, what do we got to do? And he goes, well, first of all, you got to figure out what you did. So turns out, man, they had actually remodeled their kitchen and moved things around, and it didn't like that it changed things, right? That's what this guy told him, right? So it said you remodeled, it doesn't like the remodel, so you got to make peace with it. So what they did is that they had a separate part of their house that they were planning on remodeling. They didn't do it, and they took bread, milk, and honey back there as a peace offering, and it all stopped. It all just went away.
There you go. Love that. That's fantastic.
And you best believe that I'm going to swap out some kitchen stuff in there to like, that's actually a pretty good burn right there. Like, take somebody, swap out whatever. But yeah, so that right there was, man, that was the mischievous one. All right. So my final one I got for you is out of Puerto Rico, right?
Let's hear it.
Now this one is just, how you doing? Like, hey, how are you? Just somebody's a Duende saying hi, right? And I was like, okay, not eventful, not mischievous, not nothing. It's just, I guess these things have bad days too, and it's like, I need to unwind, right? All right, so a couple men were working a sugarcane field in Puerto Rico, right? And one of them happened to look off to his left, and he says that there was a Duende just sitting on a rock with its legs crossed and its hands in its lap, just watching, just sitting there, watching these boys work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that one of the guys said that he didn't know what to do. The other guy saw it. He's like, hey, look, man, just ignore it. Don't engage with that, right? Don't engage with that, right? So the other guy's like, okay. So he's like, just sitting there working. But this thing is just like, not leaving, not moving, not saying, not doing nothing, right? and the guy has told the other guy, he was like, hey man, what do we do? He's like, just ignore it. And the Duende says, I hear you talking to me. That's what it says. So I guess they speak Spanish, so it says, I hear you. I'm right. I hear you. It's what the guy said. So they jumped, right? And he's like, I'm here. I hear you. What you're saying, right? Is what he said, right? And so they were like, okay. So when it spoke to him, the other one had a pause, a freak out. And he broke out, man. He just ran, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one just stood there and looked at it for a minute, and the thing just gave it like a little wave. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that was too much, or his buddy breaking out was too much, but he broke out too, man. He just took off running, man. And so he said, and they said they went on. They refused to work that sugarcane field ever again. But people were like, no, it just sits there. It just
that seemed like a friendly enough encounter. But I guess if it's definitely not something you've ever seen before, you're going to be a little on edge.
It also said too, man. It was wearing like. It had red eyes and was wearing some tattered looking clothes, right? So I don't know if that's what threw it off or whatever. But it was just sitting there watching the boys put in a hard day's work.
That's
in the
great.
sugarcane fields. But yeah, so those are the 5 I picked, man. And I try to get one from each, man. So
that was good. That was good. I like that. It's a good selection.
Right. So what about you? Tell me about the one you got.
I got two here for you.
Bet.
First one I saw, this one was actually somewhat recently. This happened in the early 2000s. Happened down in, I know, right? I bring the fresh content, Joe.
Yeah, man, you got the good stuff.
So this happened in Monterrey, Mexico, back in the early 2000s. And what happened was there was a boy who lived with his family in a small house with 3 siblings and parents. And he was about, from what I read, he was 8 years old at the time, pretty young, but for his age, he was very overweight. Loved eating sweets and all this kind of stuff. He was very overweight. And
a rapist.
Was that
eating a rapist? You're right. Chowing down on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, carne asada. All right.
That's right. I mean, I can't blame him. I love South American food, but anyway,
Yeah, that's all you. This the food, right? Yeah,
Yeah, just food, just the
I
food.
know you,
Just,
dog.
anyway, so during this time period, when this story happened, he found that he was waking up every morning very fatigued, and he was fatigued all day. He was just he'd sleep a lot. He'd wake up just exhausted all day, irritable, and they couldn't figure out why. They thought if anything, it might be attributed to his weight. Could be a weight problem, but he was sleeping fine, but he was always tired, and they weren't sure what was happening. So this was going on for a while, maybe a couple months. I'm not sure exactly how long. But so one night, one of his sisters, older sister, had to get up in the middle of the night, and she walks past his room where he was sleeping, and she looks in, and she saw a duende, fairly small, I suppose, in this story, this region, saw a duende sleeping on his chest. The boy's chest was just sleeping there, just like that.
Oh man.
And so obviously she wasn't sure what to do. She didn't tell the parents, and she didn't tell the boy either, but she told the other siblings. And night after night, they would get up in the middle of the night and see what was happening. And every night they would see a duende sleeping there on the chest. And after this happened for about a week, they decided to tell the parents. The parents, again, Central South American culture, all these towns seem to have a healer. You had two stories that had this, but same with this one. They went down to the local healer. They said, "This is what's happening. We're seeing a duende on our son," and he confirmed, "Yes, that's what it is." And what's happening is, as a duende is resting on the child's chest, it is draining the boy's energy. Yeah. Not maliciously. It's just, what happened. So he performed a few rituals and whatnot, and I'm not sure, they probably gave it an offering, and that was it. He stopped sleeping on the chest. The boy recovered. He was fine. But they say that to this day, and this may have been a couple years ago, but still almost 20 years later, the duende still appears at the house. Nothing bad, nothing malicious, but they see all the time. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
No, that is.
Yeah, and that's the story that I saw. We're talking about the Pukwudgies. They had powers, right? They could shapeshift, they could turn invisible, they could summon magic arrows. Never saw anything about the duende having powers or anything like that. They're just small cryptids. So when I saw that one about the energy draining, that was the only thing I ever saw remotely close to a power or anything like that. So, but still, I thought that was very interesting.
No, that's a good story. I didn't see anything about that either, man. Like I don't know how they're getting in and out of the wall, in and out of the walls or whatever, but like I never saw anything about how they like just blinked out, right? So
yeah. So very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's one story. My second story, Jay, you're proud of me. I was on the street and I did some investigative journalism here. You ready?
Yeah,
this one's good.
I'm ready.
So a few weeks ago, as you know, I was on vacation. I went down to Florida. Was visiting a buddy of mine who's down there, and so I was down there. And you had told me just before I left that we were going to be doing this episode, and that it was about this creature, the duende, South American culture. So okay, I didn't really know anything about it at that time. I hadn't done any research. But I go down there. I'm on vacation, visiting my friend, and when I'm down there, I meet his new girlfriend. I don't know what, Sarah, whatever it is. This woman who he's seeing, and she is very recently moved up here from Colombia.
Oh, that's.
And
did you warn him?
He knows. He's aware. He's already aware.
Because if you ever see, what's that sign for help? What's that sign? Because
I don't know.
But if you ever see me do that, Steve.
Mm-hmm. I know. We're never safe. None of us.
Never safe. Never safe.
But yeah, so this woman, I'm just going to call her Maria. I'm not going to try and dox anyone here on the show. Maria, she's new to the country, doesn't really speak a lot of English, but as you know, I do speak some Spanish. So her and I were able to communicate quite a bit during my trip down there. And one of the days we were hanging out, I just straight up asked her, I said, "Do you know about duendes?" And she kind of looked at me, like, she kind of gave me like an eye, like, how do you know? How does this little gringo here know
Right.
about Duende? I'm like, don't worry about that. Just tell me. And she's like, of course, yeah. She knows all about them. She like she said, she's grown up knowing about them. Very common folklore down there. Um, so I was pleased to hear that she knew about them. And then I asked her. I said, have you yourself ever encountered or know anyone that has an encounter? And she told me, and this is through my very basic Spanish understanding that I heard this story, so I tried to grasp what I could. Um, she told me that she herself, no, has never experienced a duende, never seen one before. But she told me about her grandmother. How her grandmother had always told her a story from when the grandmother was a little girl. And from what I understood, the grandmother lived in Colombia, down in, I'm not sure exactly where, but in some small village. You know, they had their cows and their chickens and all this kind of thing. Small little, almost cottage-like place. And it was her parents. Um, and the mother died very young. So it was Maria's grandmother and her father living alone in this little cottage. And as I'm sure you can imagine, I don't know, 70, 80 years ago in a small village in Colombia, life's not easy.
No,
Uh,
we got just to give everybody. You got well water and maybe a little bit of electricity.
yeah.
And then that's back Colombia. I don't know if you're not familiar with the term a rolling brownout. That's where they shut the power grid down, like a Hunger Games clock to because
Yeah.
they don't have enough. So yeah, that's probably what they were experiencing. And air conditioning just showed up in Colombia like 3 months ago. So
Yeah, and so this is, like I said, this is probably back in like the 40s or 50s,
yeah,
from what I could tell from what she was saying. So now it's just the grandmother as a small girl and the grandmother's father, and so the father's out all day. He's tending to the animals. He's doing whatever his job is. He's very busy, right, all the time. And she's just a little girl. Really, not a whole lot of time for house upkeep, to keep things tidy, things like that. You know, even just cooking is done very quickly. Um, but so soon after the mother died, and they're on their own, and the father's having struggles kind of keeping things together in the house. They woke up one morning and they noticed that things were just kind of cleaned up around the house,
oh man,
right?
yeah,
Things, floors kind of swept. She said some other things, but I couldn't quite understand. But just the idea that the house was kind of tidied up, and they kind of were wondering, well, the girl didn't do it because she was so young. She's not taking care of the house, and the father's so busy. He didn't do it. So what is happening? So over time, this kept happening. They wake up every so often, and the house was tidied up when they woke up, and they had no idea what did it. And she says that the grandmother says one night she woke up in the middle of the night and she heard something out in, not in the bedroom area, but the other common area of the house, and she swore she saw a little man, as she says, kind of fixing things around the house.
wow,
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty wild.
that is wild, man. That is
Yeah.
wild, bro. Yeah, that is wild, man. So yeah, my wife's from Colombia, right? And she had a grandmother that lived in the city, and she had a grandmother that lived out like out what you were describing. And she in the summertime she would go out into the country, and she had told me stories about how remote those
Mm-hmm.
like that's 3 hours to a doctor, right? That's
Yeah.
I mean it's like you don't even that there's no even today it's like 3 hours to a doctor, right? It's not even a
Yeah.
clinic, right? So yeah, man, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah.
All
Pretty
right,
wild.
man. Yeah,
Thought
that's
that
pretty good. Hey,
was,
good on you, man.
that's right.
That's why you're a company, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why you're on the payroll, son. That's why you're on the payroll right there.
Love it.
Damn. All right, man. Good stuff, bro. All right. So
Yeah.
now you ready to talk about how to get rid of these jokers?
Yes, but before I do, one thing that I had in my notes that I forgot about, and it's been on my head this. There's something weird. I don't know if you saw this, but I actually saw this in multiple locations when reading about the Duendes, and it's kind of strange. The ones that live in the homes and the walls have there are many reports that in the middle of the night they like to wake up and clip the children's toenails and eat toenail clippings.
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see that?
No.
I saw that in a few
All,
spots, and I think that's kind of
all,
weird.
all right then. Well, okay. All right then. No, I did not see that, man. But all right. So if you can't figure out why your house is clean and your child's manicure looks perfect, you might have something living in
You
the
might
in the
say,
walls over
oh,
there. No, that's a good fun fact though, right there. So yeah, that's cool, man. And like I said, yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's a good story, man. Yeah, that's a good story, dude. First hand, Steve. First hand, man.
that's right.
And you're scared to do the other thing I wanted you to do. Come on, man. You're
Yeah,
good. It's time to
we'll
upgrade.
see.
It's up time to
We'll see.
upgrade.
Hmm.
All right, so here you go. So you might not believe this, but some people aren't comfortable with small gnomes eating their kids' toenails, sleeping on their kids' chests, or rearranging their cabinets at night. So this is how the 9 ways to get a duende to leave your house. Now, another thing too, man.
Mm.
These duendes, out of everything that we've studied here, and we've looked into some stuff, right? Would you agree?
Oh yeah,
I've never
absolutely.
came across more written documentation than I have about how to handle anything than these duendes. There is,
Yeah.
there is, like, I don't know. We'll get into the reason in a second, man. But I just thought it was crazy because you won't find out how to get rid of a dog man or how to get rid of a Bigfoot or a Pukwudgie. But like, here's how
Breaking
you
your
handle.
house.
Here's 9 ways to handle a duende, right? So first one, they call it the respectful request and apologies, where you simply, politely ask them to leave. That's it.
That seems simple enough. Yeah.
They say that these duendes, man, they fall in. They're in a gray area for me, where I don't think they're full born cryptid, and I don't think they're full born supernatural,
Yeah.
spectacle, right? And I didn't hear them having any type of magical powers, but also I don't know how they're getting in and out of those walls unless they have like little doors, or I don't know, right? So
Yeah.
they speak our language, or they speak your language wherever you're at, right? And so the number one way to deal with them, they say number one is to ask them to leave, and I'm like, alrighty then. So the ancient Enigma files, how to get rid of a duende. Number two, right? Second one, which was also two, I thought was very specific to these guys because when we did the Pukwudgie one, they tell you to avoid these things. Don't even
Yeah.
interact with these. Well, Steve, you were the point man on it. Don't mess with them, right? But with the duendes, they can be bought. So it says so it says food. They like food, milk,
Mm.
and candies. But what gets them the most is, like Steve was said, they like trinkets, man. Little bitty, like small pieces of jewelry, something like that, man. So it's like they say if you place the offering in a quiet corner near a tree, basically wherever you think this thing is living or coming in and out of, right? And you leave it
Mm.
there, they'll leave. They'll take it and go, right? It's basically you're just paying them to move on, right? And I was like, okay. So those are the two methods I would probably try first. Just,
Those are the two easiest ways to go about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like I'm not trying to, but I guess they have some problem duendes down there.
Mm.
So that's when you get into what I would like to say the more heavy-handed versions. Number three,
Hmm.
ceremonial sweeping of your house. So down in, if you watch this channel, we're kind of worldly. We've been all around the globe. I've never been into a South American, Central American home that had carpet. It was all hard concrete or marble, I guess. Wouldn't you agree, Steve? You ever been anywhere that had carpet? I've seen some rugs, but never
Yeah.
carpet.
Carpeted like up here.
Yeah, not like us. So they sweep. Everything is swept, right? So evidently, if you sweep your house, right, it's just a
Hmm.
symbolic act of driving it out. You want them to leave, man. So you sweep it. And I'm like, okay. Some people say to use sage or whatever, but That's witchcraft crap right there. But we are, so what do I know, right? So, anyways, so
Hmm.
once you get them to leave, you don't want them to come back. So sweeping is the aggressive way to get them to leave. So you have to follow up sweeping with a good old fashioned salting, son. so
Hmm. There you
so
go.
so they believe that if you put salt down, sprinkle it around the doorways, windows, where you think the activity is,
Yep.
it creates a barrier that they can't cross, right? And I'm like, and eventually they'll get tired of trying to come in and they'll just move away, right? And I'm
Hmm.
like, huh. So yeah. And I've also other there's also several other salt is big in the occult, man. It's huge. I don't.
I Hey, I've seen a lot of movies and stuff where when
Yeah.
they're trying to keep demons out, they
Yeah.
always salt the windows and the doors. So that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. So it also, I mean, like it's even deeper than that, man. It's voodoo. It's supposed to keep
Mhm.
witches out of your house. A witch can't walk in your house. But that's like I said, that's in that old demon worship and stuff. Anyways, cult crap. Anyway, so salt, right? Second one is you basically stink them out. So you burn specific type of herbs, sage and rosemary, which actually
Mhm.
smells pretty good, right? Rosemary
That,
does. Sage,
that would bring me in. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think rosemary smells good, man.
yeah.
Palo Santo, I don't know what that is, but it's very specific. They say use Palo Santo
Okay.
to get them to leave your house. Basically, you just burn it and it smokes it out, and they can't stand the smoke, and then they leave, right? Also, too, it's better to do it where the area where you think they're at, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, so smoke your house out, right?
Yep.
Number 8 or 6. So those were the aggressive ones, right? So number 6 is the irritate them till they leave, right? And so basically, if you rearrange your furniture, constantly rearrange it after every so many days or whatever, it drives them nuts and they can't stand it and they'll eventually leave, right? So it says it just makes them feel uncomfortable. It's to get them to believe that it can't make it a specific spot its home. So it's like, I'm leaving you, crazy OCDers, right? So it leaves, right? So that was I call that the irritating one, right? So
Okay.
now the number 7 is the pray it away, is what I call it, man. Many cultures, they use religious symbols, cross, images, saints,
Hmm.
rosaries. Of course, when you're dealing with Central South, heavy Catholic. You're Catholic, right,
Yep.
Steve?
Not me.
No,
No.
okay, all right.
But
So, anyways,
but like you're saying, we had three of our stories. All these towns had
yeah,
healers in them,
yeah,
right? And the healers were able to have some sort of ritual or
yeah,
ceremony that drove them out.
yeah. So you can pray them away. Ask Jesus to
Mm-hmm.
come in. He'll knock them out. Done. Simple enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 8 is the like you want. This is how I've gotten rid of almost every girlfriend in my life. It's called the ignore them technique,
Mm-hmm. I can see
or
that.
it's
Yep.
actually specifically called avoid provoking them technique, right? And they'll leave. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so what you do is they advise you, don't provoke them, definitely don't make fun of them. I guess they have a lot of pride, little man pride or whatever. Don't speak ill of them. It makes them more aggressive, man. If you approach them calmly and respectfully, but if you have one that's just doing some fidukery in there,
Mm-hmm.
just ignore it, and it will
Yep.
eventually won't engage, and it'll think you're boring, and you'll leave.
Yep.
Which is one thing we're never on this channel is boring, and so they'll leave,
Absolutely.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
last but not least, number 9 is who you're going to call if a duende is too hard to get rid of. It says seek professional help, man. Get yourself let's go find the spiritual healer, or get a shaman to come in to do it. So they'll come in and so what happens is, or you can get a folklore expert, is what they
Mm-hmm.
say. And I'm like, okay, basically somebody that's familiar with it.
They're
Because
gonna call you.
yeah, right. Yeah, I'll send you down there. Because I don't want that thing climbing in my backpack and coming back home, right? So, but yeah, so this is if you have a extremely aggressive one, extremely naughty one, or you've made one really, really, really mad. So the mischievous ones. So depending on what you got is that they will they will come and handle it on that. And then you
Mm.
have the final method, number 10. Some of
This
these
is a bonus.
people, some of these people
You
like,
told.
some of these people like them in their house, man.
Well, there you go.
They
There's that.
they coexist with them. Some people like, yeah, that's his part of the house. That's it.
Yeah, it's our
We
little buddy. He helped us out.
leave
Yeah,
we leave crackers out for him, and I'm like, okay, man. So what?
sounds easy enough.
Hey, man. Whatever. Rock your socks off, man. Well, whatever you're into, man. I don't know. I don't know if that. I'm gonna try method number 1. Please leave. Like I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't. But I'm definitely not probably a number 10 guy. Where like, hey, look, man.
Yeah.
You take the east wing, and I'll take the west. It just depends on how. I guess it depends on how big the house is, man. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
That's funny.
that's how you get rid of them, brother. So,
There you go.
you got anything else?
Yeah, let me. I got that list of some of the ones from Spain,
Let's do
the
it.
different types of Spain.
Oh no,
So,
no,
like I
no, no.
said,
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, let's do that. We should. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
yeah. So as we mentioned, we've been talking mostly here about Latin America, Central America, duendes, but the stories originate from Spain, and like I said, they're huge in Spanish folklore, and like I said, I saw listed over a dozen, and who knows how many more are there.
Yeah.
So I wrote down a couple that I thought were kind of interesting, and I got the names here. I don't want to mess the names up. And like I said, we described what they look like. Typically, they're at least in the Latin American, Central American. Typically, they're almost like little goblins, right? In Spanish culture, yes, some of them are, and some of them have a little bit more different look to them. So I'll go into this. One is the anjanas, okay, and they're actually described, believe it or not, as being beautiful.
Really?
Small stature, beautiful, long flowing hair, beautiful clothes and pearls, floral crowns, almost like little
Wow.
fairies.
Right.
Essentially. They're very small, right? They say they're usually no larger than a flower, but they can be as tall as humans. They live in wet areas like rivers, ponds, lakes, and in caves. And I guess there's another Spanish story, folklore. The Ojancanu is apparently a Spanish cyclops. And supposedly the only thing that the cyclops is afraid of is the anjanas.
Okay.
And so the anjanas will help people fight off the cyclops.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's one that's on the friendlier side. Another one that's friendly is called the Busgosos, and they're taller. They're taller, bearded duendes. They dress themselves in moss and leaves, and they're known for really kind of two things. They'll play flutes throughout the forest, again, to help guide people who are lost out of the forest, and they'll also help repair barns and homes that have been damaged by weather.
Okay.
So they're friendly. Now, one of the more mischievous ones is the Dianos. That's one that's more mischievous, and what they like to do, I thought this was pretty funny. They can transform. So this was one that actually had more powers.
Yeah.
What they do is they're tricksters, and they transform into different livestock, right? So when they see that a farmer is out with trying to find his lost cattle, they'll turn into this cattle and then disappear. The farmer thinks he's got his cattle back, and then they're out, right? They appear as donkeys, and what will happen is people get on their back to ride them, and then they grow to massive proportions, kind of just like freaking the person out. And then the other one to turn into horses, and people get on, and then they just start spinning in circles super fast, getting the person dizzy, and then just kicking them off. So I thought that was pretty funny, the livestock one.
No.
And the last one I put down, Joe, if you were a duende, this one would be you, okay? So they're these smaller duendes, and again, they dress themselves in leaves, moss, and twigs, and they live in bushes, right? But they love to play tricks on people, and they're notorious for lifting up the skirts of women and pinching their butts. That's right.
That's my kind of duende right there, man. So now if I see a good badonkadonk, it's gonna get. Back in the day, I'd have to get a little pop. All right, man. So yeah, a butt pinching duendes.
Yeah. So like I said, that was 4 of them. I saw at least a dozen different types in Spanish culture. Thought that was very interesting.
Man, that's wild, bro. That is wild.
Yeah.
This is the second thing that I slept on that turned out to be like completely like fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Like,
really cool.
I had no idea, right? Yeah, I had no idea. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, well, I'm gonna tell the guy that's, you know what, buddy, you're getting a T-shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna reach out, man. This is actually a good topic, man, that he recommended on it. Wow. All right, Steve. So let me catch my breath here for a minute. You know how we always do, right? Real or not real, Steve? What are you thinking?
I'm going to go with my typical answer. All right. Do I believe that they are real? Probably not. I think it's a very cool story. The folklore is awesome. You
Mhm.
know, I think that's a really cool cultural thing. Um, but it's almost like how we have Bigfoot. Mexico has the chupacabra,
Right,
right?
right,
There are a lot of people who believe that it is more than just a story. And
right.
it's not just a couple. I mean, we're talking about all of Central America, Latin America,
Yeah,
Spain, and the Philippines. Like,
Philippines.
people really believe it's real. There's a lot of reported sightings out there. So do I personally believe it? No.
Right.
But is it a someone has seen something
Yeah,
incident? Absolutely.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So for me,
Mm.
I actually got to say, man, of course I believe it, but I'm actually going to bring like some receipts,
Okay.
a little bit more receipts on this than I would with the normal one, right? And it's going to play into it. I laughed off the Pukwudgie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you told me that, was it Freetown, right? Freetown, Massachusetts, right? That they had crosswalks for these things, and that we had somebody post a comment in our video, when the video that we dropped on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
3 Mondays ago, by the time you probably see this. Her story was amazing, and it's like a paragraph and a half, right? And I was like, wow. So I'm like, all right, cool. So there's something there, right? And
Yeah.
like there's something there, right? I'm not. I've never seen magic arrows. I've never, whatever. But something's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then hearing this story right here and doing the research in this story, right? I've I've never seen more written documentation on anything else we've studied than
Yeah.
this freaking Duende, right? I haven't seen it. I could have went, like I said, I didn't even get that far where you got the 12
Mm-hmm.
classifications just in Spain, right? I've never seen more documented stories about them. I've never seen more stories about each of them being different, having their own type of styles, where they're not all just, butthole evil, right? And I have never come across the 10 ways to get rid of one, right? I've never even seen that before. I've never even
Yeah.
seen that before, right?
Yeah.
And so when I combine that, man, with the Pukwudgie, right? That's in
Mm.
Northeast Americas, and then Central America, South America, Philippines, Spain. Man, there's something there, right? There's like there's something to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I gotta say, man, like
Yeah.
I'm in, man. Like there's something, yeah, there's something, right? Like there's something there, man. And then it always goes back to that book back there, man. When I read the book of Enoch, man, and I go into the book of Giants and I see how they created the Fae, right? And these definitely, in my opinion, would fall under the Fae. Would you?
Mm.
So if you're new to this channel or whatever, and you don't know what the Fae is, it's basically it's the what they everything in fairy tale land is called a Fae, right, Steve? Is that how that works?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like everything in like fairies and elves and all that stuff, and gnomes and duendes and pugwudgies, they created the Fae, right? And yeah, man, I gotta say, man, there's some threads to be pulled on this. The guy I
Mm.
spoke with back and forth, he's 100% in. He says, and he says that when you get, even in the cities, he says these things because they live in your houses, right? Even in the cities, he'll tell you that, yeah, no, that this is not something that's just specific to the the rural areas. And
Yeah.
Central and South America is massive. It is completely massive, and it is.
Mm.
I would say people don't believe me when I say this, but I would say that Central and South America is probably only about 90% habited, inhabitable, almost where people live, right? Because
Yeah.
the other 10% is 90% uninhabitable.
Right. Yeah.
90%
Yeah.
jungle is what I'm trying to say. Only
Yeah.
about 10% of the areas of all Central and South America are densely populated areas. I know that people don't believe this, but you can fly from Barranquilla or Cartagena to Bogota.
Hmm.
But if you don't fly, it's like a 3-day drive. Like
Yeah.
through the like you might literally get kidnapped, like literally through like these like crazy little roads, right? So
When I was down there, we went from Medellin to Manizales, and we took a bus, and it was like an 8-hour bus trip, and like there were sections where you're kind
yeah,
of looking, going, am I gonna?
yeah,
Is this bus about to fall on a cliff? Kind
yeah,
of.
exactly, man. Like, how, are we seeing how close we can get to the edge, right? So, yeah, it's wildly still very dense, very populated,
Mhm.
foresty areas, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, so man, I'm in, dude.
All right.
Damn it, man. So, yeah, man. Now I said the Pukwudgie would make a great church softball team name, and the Duendes would make the other one. The Duendes versus the Pukwudgies for the for the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
Man, all right, brother. Man, another zinger there, brother. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right, you got anything else, Steve?
No, that's it. That's
All
it for
right.
me.
All right, man. So, well, if you stuck around this long, nerds, then you are into the Duendes now. So, welcome to the club, and you are our kind of losers.
You threw me off. I thought that's what you were going with.
I was, man. I was bringing it in slow, man. I was bringing it in slow. You're our kind of losers. So do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it makes us feel like big men. Give us a thumbs up. If you do have any Duende comments, I will absolutely read them. So will Steve. Leave those in the comments there. And if you want to hang out with us more, hit the link in our bio, our link tree. Join us on Discord. You have quicker access to us. We're all kinds of good stuff going on there. We're slowly growing it. And if you got any stories that you want to if you have any stories that you would like to share with us, jump in Discord. Let us know. We'll bring you on and just do a one-on-one with you. But
That's right.
that's it.
I can't get these fireworks to go again. Come on.
Fireworks.
There we go.
Boom, Steve. Boom. There it is. All right, nerds. Steve, we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.